Once upon a time, in the middle of nowhere, there lived a precocious little girl and her deadbeat father. Her name was Juniper, and, as I said, she was precocious. Juniper and her father were very poor, as the land they lived in was barren. Whilst her father was content to stare at the portrait of his late wife all day, Juniper tried to rustle up what merchandise she could. The only plants that grew were poisonous berries. Juniper used these berries to decorate plain straw hats. While very few took notice in her artistry, June loved her creations. Whilst prancing about with her favorite hat, a feral wind swept that hat off of her head and carried it into the woods. As she wandered through the eerie forest, Juniper could not shake the feeling that she was not alone. Evidently, while she may be precocious, Juniper was not particularly bright. That night, fearful visions plagued Juniper's dreams. She was awoken by the sound of large feet trampling the earth. When she approached the window to inspect the source of the noise, the most curious sight confronted her. Sat by her window was a large beast, whose species she could not decipher. She noted its big, beautiful wings, but it was its gentle eyes that spoke to her. In the creature's mouth hung a beautiful straw hat. Indeed, it was her hat. What Juniper didn't know was that years of isolation had driven the poor beast mad with loneliness, leaving him with few social graces. It would appear that he was trying to make amends. Over the next couple of days, Juniper bonded deeply with the creature. It would appear that she had found a friend with whom she could share her secret dreams and fantasies. Though he could speak, the creature said very little about himself. One night, though, when the moon was at its brightest, he had a peculiar request. "You want me to sit on your back as you fly? Isn't that dangerous?"
It is during a night like this that we are safer in the sky. Goblins, witches, and demons prowl the earth, wreaking havoc.
Once in the air, however, Juniper could appreciate the beast's warning. Flying through the sky, June was able to see things, marvelous things. she had never seen before, both literally and metaphorically. Her horizons were broadened. Unfortunately, her nighttime escapade had not gone entirely unnoticed. Seeing the creature for the first time, June's father was struck with an epiphany. No longer would he and his daughter be living in poverty. Their home situation had certainly improved, but on his own, Juniper's father would never have found his footing without his recent discovery. The people of Herringdale, which is the city adjacent to the middle of nowhere, flocked to see the Heavenly Rider. Despite the many attractions and performers, it was clear who the star was. Amongst the festivities, June's father spotted the most beautiful creature he had ever laid eyes on. Her name was Cecilia. He was instantly smitten, and as such had a new dream. He dared to ask the fair maiden if she could ever return his affection, and she assured him, after a very whirlwind romance, he and Cecilia were married. Whilst June's father believed he was in marital bliss, the truth was that if he had gotten to know his new bride, he would have discovered that she was in fact a princess. And not only that, but he might also have discovered that she was, and continued to be, a black widow. Upon hearing the news of their daughter's recent nuptials, the King and Queen of Swandale gave Cecilia an ultimatum. Should her next husband meet an untimely demise, she would be stricken from their will and disowned. Cecilia was furious, of course, but she resolved to make the best of her situation. First, Juniper was angered at the loss of her best friend's freedom. However, once she saw that the Heavenly Rider was, in fact, happy, she too was happy. Not long into her marriage, Cecilia took over the circus and proved to be a cruel ringleader. For all the strange delight she would have taken in killing her husband, she instead took in torturing the performers. Though she never laid a hand on the Heavenly Rider, for fear that bruises would show, she instead chose to starve him on a regular basis, to keep him under control. It was in such desperate moments as these that his angel would come to his rescue. The Heavenly Rider's only happiness now came from the few bittersweet moments he could spend with June. Unable to endure the cruelty bestowed on her closest friends, June sought to out Cecilia for her wickedness in front of a large crowd of people. Though no one believed June, Cecilia's blood boiled. She had had about all she could stomach for this snivelling brat. She remembered that her parents said she couldn't murder her husband. They had said nothing about her stepdaughter. The princess, however, had made a terribly poor choice. For all the cruelty the Heavenly Rider had been dealt by Cecilia, the only thing that could truly ignite his rage was seeing his dearest and only friend threatened. With rage to give him strength, he broke through the shackles that bound him. The princess was snatched up in the Chimera's mighty jaw. Before he could sink his teeth into the princess's flesh, an unlikely source halted his attack. "Wait!" Juniper cried urgently. This is probably the part where you expect her to plead for the princess's life so that the Heavenly Rider wouldn't stoop to her level. I have a better idea. Said idea that June had was in fact leaving Cecilia to the freaks that she had tormented and who wasted no time in dishing out their revenge. And what of the beast and his beauty? It would be pleasant to think that they lived happily ever after, but the truth was he had tried to kill a princess, which tends to have repercussions, even if they are psychotic. Juniper stayed in the cottage, weaving hats, while her father continued his circus and enjoyed seeing his cruel ex-girlfriend punished. The Heavenly Rider was never officially seen again, but during every full moon, many villagers reported seeing a creature flying through the heavens with a mysterious young woman comfortably secured between his beautiful wings.